The early morning sun cast long shadows across Terminal 3 of Metropolitan International Airport as Sarah Chen walked through the staff entrance. Her black TSA uniform was perfectly pressed, and her supervisor badge gleamed under the fluorescent lights. At 45 years old, she carried herself with the confidence of someone who knew every inch of her domain. "Good morning, Sarah," called out Mike from security screening. She gave him her usual warm smile and friendly wave. Everyone at the airport knew Sarah. She had been the TSA supervisory officer for the past 15 years, and her reputation was spotless. As she made her way to her office, Sarah noticed how the other employees looked at her with respect. Young officers wanted to be like her, and the senior staff trusted her completely. She had worked hard to build this image, and it had taken years of careful planning. Sarah unlocked her office door and settled into her chair. Her computer screen showed the usual morning reports: passenger counts, security alerts, and staff assignments. But hidden beneath these normal documents was something very different: a secret set of cargo manifests that only she could access. The phone on her desk rang. Sarah picked it up immediately, recognizing the number. "Everything is set for tonight's shipment," a man's voice said quietly. "Good," Sarah replied, keeping her voice professional in case anyone was passing by her office. "Make sure the night shift knows about the special inspection in Terminal 2. That should keep them busy." She hung up the phone and smiled to herself. Tonight would be another successful operation, just like the dozens before it. No one suspected that their trusted supervisor was running one of the biggest smuggling operations the airport had ever seen. A knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in," she called out, quickly switching her computer screen to show regular security protocols. Jenny, a new TSA officer, stepped into the office. "Ms. Chen, I have a question about the scanning procedures for diplomatic bags." Sarah smiled warmly. She enjoyed training new officers. It gave her a perfect cover for adjusting security protocols when needed. "Of course, Jenny. Sit down, and I'll explain everything." For the next 20 minutes, Sarah patiently explained the proper procedures, making sure to include the special exceptions she had carefully introduced over the years. These small changes in protocol were what made her operation possible, and training new officers to follow them without question was crucial. "Thank you so much, Ms. Chen," Jenny said as she stood to leave. "Everyone says you're the best person to learn from." "We're all here to help each other," Sarah replied modestly. "That's what makes our airport security team special." After Jenny left, Sarah checked her watch. It was time for her daily inspection rounds. She grabbed her tablet and security pass, then headed out to walk through the terminals. These walks served two purposes. They reinforced her image as a dedicated supervisor, and they let her check on all the key points in her smuggling network. As she walked, Sarah greeted cleaning staff, chatted with shop owners, and checked in with security teams. Everyone saw exactly what she wanted them to see: a caring, professional supervisor who took her job seriously. At the International Cargo Terminal, she paused to inspect some shipping containers. Her trained eye quickly spotted the special marking, a tiny blue dot that looked like a routine inspection stamp to others, but told her that the valuable cargo was in place. "All clear here," she announced to the nearby cargo handlers, making a show of checking things off on her tablet. They nodded respectfully, never suspecting that their supervisor was actually confirming details for tonight's illegal shipment. As Sarah completed her rounds and headed back to her office, she felt satisfied. 15 years of building trust, learning systems, and creating the perfect cover had paid off. She was the last person anyone would suspect of running a criminal operation. That evening, as she gathered her things to leave, Sarah looked out over the busy airport terminal. Thousands of passengers rushed to their flights, security teams conducted their routine checks, and cargo moved steadily through the system. Everything worked smoothly, and at the center of it all was Sarah Chen, respected supervisor, trusted colleague, and secret mastermind of a criminal empire that was about to become bigger than anyone could imagine. Marcus Rodriguez stared at his computer screen in the quiet hours of the night shift. Something wasn't right with the luggage scanning logs, and it had been bothering him for weeks. As a junior TSA officer at Metropolitan International Airport, he took his job seriously, even during the less desirable night hours. "Hey, Marcus, want some coffee?" his colleague Tom called from the break room. Later, Marcus replied, his eyes fixed on the numbers in front of him. He had noticed that certain cargo shipments were missing their usual documentation during Sarah Chen's supervision shifts. At first, he thought it was just computer errors, but now he was seeing a pattern. The clock showed 2:30 a.m., and the airport was relatively quiet. Only the occasional late-night flight broke the silence. Marcus pulled up another set of records, comparing them to last month's logs. His heart beat faster as he spotted another irregularity. "What are you still doing here?" a voice asked, making Marcus jump. He turned to see Sarah Chen standing behind him. He hadn't heard her approach. "Ms. Chen, I was just reviewing some old scanning logs," Marcus said, trying to sound casual. There seemed to be some missing entries. Sarah's smile remained friendly, but something in her eyes changed. "That's very dedicated of you, Marcus. But you should focus on your current assignments. Leave the administrative work to the supervisors." Marcus nodded, but his instincts told him something was wrong. The next day, he decided to talk to his immediate superior, John Parker, about his concerns. "Mr. Parker, can I speak with you for a minute?" Marcus asked, catching John in the hallway. "Make it quick, Rodriguez. I've got a meeting." Marcus explained what he had found: the missing documentation, the irregular patterns, all happening during specific shifts. But instead of showing concern, John's face grew increasingly annoyed. "Listen, Rodriguez," John cut him off. "Sarah Chen has been here for 15 years. She's the most trusted supervisor we have. Are you suggesting she's doing something wrong?" "No, sir, I just think we should look into these irregularities." "Enough," John snapped. "You're obviously not busy enough if you have time to dig through old records. Starting tomorrow, you're transferred to Terminal 4. Marcus stood shocked as John walked away. Terminal 4 was the smallest terminal, handling mainly domestic flights. It was where they sent officers who had caused trouble. That evening, as Marcus gathered his things from his locker, he saw Sarah Chen talking quietly with John Parker in the corridor. They both glanced his way, and Sarah gave him that same friendly smile that now seemed less warm than before. The next few days in Terminal 4 were quiet and boring. Marcus spent his shifts checking passengers' bags and doing routine security screenings, but he couldn't forget what he had seen in those logs. During his lunch break, Marcus sat alone in the break room, looking through notes he had taken. The pattern was clear. Every Tuesday and Friday night, when Sarah Chen supervised the international cargo terminal, certain shipments went through without proper scanning records. Looking for something interesting? Marcus looked up to see Jenny, one of the new TSA officers, sitting across from him. "Just reviewing some procedures," he said carefully. Jenny lowered her voice. "I've noticed some strange things, too. During my training, Ms. Chen taught me some special procedures that don't match what's in our manual." Marcus felt his heart race. Finally, someone else had noticed something wrong. But before he could respond, they were interrupted by the arrival of other officers. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the missing records, Sarah's strange reaction, and his sudden transfer. He knew what he had seen wasn't just a coincidence or computer error. But how could he prove it? And more importantly, who could he trust with this information? As he lay in bed, Marcus made a decision. Tomorrow, he would start documenting everything he had found. Something wrong was happening at Metropolitan International Airport, and even if no one else would listen, he had to keep investigating. He didn't know it yet, but his discovery was just the tip of a massive criminal operation that would soon be exposed. FBI Special Agent Diana Foster sat at her desk, surrounded by stacks of complaint reports from Metropolitan International Airport. 3 separate cases of missing items from checked luggage had caught her attention. All 3 incidents happened during the same supervisor's shifts, Sarah Chen. "Agent Foster, you need to see this," said Agent Thompson, walking into her office with a thick folder. Another passenger reported missing jewelry from their luggage. Same terminal, same time pattern. Diana pushed her coffee cup aside and opened the folder. As she read through the details, her trained eye noticed something interesting. The missing items weren't just random valuable things. They were all small, expensive items that could be easily hidden and resold. "Look at this," Diana pointed to the dates. All 4 cases happened on either Tuesday or Friday nights, and always during international flights. She pulled up the airport staff schedule on her computer. Sure enough, Sarah Chen was the supervising officer for all those shifts. On the surface, Sarah's record was perfect. 15 years of service, numerous commendations, not a single complaint against her. Too perfect, Diana muttered to herself. The phone on her desk rang. It was Marcus Rodriguez, the junior TSA officer who had first reported irregularities in the scanning logs. He had been quietly helping the FBI, providing information about the airport's operations. Agent Foster, Marcus spoke quietly. I just overheard something interesting. Sarah Chen is planning a special inspection in Terminal 2 tonight, but I checked the official schedule. There's no inspection planned. Diana thanked him and hung up. She quickly accessed the airport's cargo manifests for the night. 3 large shipments were scheduled to arrive from Asia, but something about the paperwork looked odd. Thompson, she called to her partner, run a check on these shipping companies. These manifests don't look right. While Thompson made calls, Diana spread out all the evidence on her desk. She started connecting the dots with colored strings on a large board. Missing valuable items from luggage. Irregular scanning logs. Unusual cargo manifests, all happening during Sarah Chen's shifts. The pattern was becoming clear, but they needed solid proof. They couldn't move against someone as respected as Sarah Chen without concrete evidence. Thompson returned with more information. Those shipping companies, 2 of them don't exist. The third one was registered just 6 months ago. Diana stood up and walked to the window, thinking. She's smart, using fake companies to move goods through the airport. The missing items from passenger luggage are probably just a small part of a much bigger operation. Just then, her computer beeped with a new message. It was from Jenny, the new TSA officer who had been secretly helping their investigation. She had managed to take photos of some suspicious cargo labels in Terminal 3. Diana opened the photos and smiled. The labels looked normal at first glance, but under closer inspection, they had tiny blue dots, some kind of secret marking system. We need surveillance on those cargo areas, Diana told Thompson, but it has to be completely hidden. If Sarah Chen is as careful as I think she is, she'll notice anything unusual. Thompson nodded and left to make arrangements. Diana turned back to her evidence board, adding the new information. Years of FBI work had taught her that criminals always make mistakes, no matter how careful they are. Sarah Chen's mistake was creating a pattern, and now Diana had found it. She picked up her phone and dialed her supervisor's number. Sir, I need approval for a special operation. I think we've uncovered something big at Metropolitan Airport. Yes, sir. Much bigger than just missing luggage. We're looking at what might be an international smuggling operation run by someone on the inside. As she hung up the phone, Diana looked at Sarah Chen's employee photo on her desk. The woman was smiling confidently at the camera, her TSA supervisor badge clearly visible. Let's see what you're really doing at that airport, Ms. Chen, Diana said quietly. The investigation was about to enter its next phase, and Diana Foster was determined to uncover the truth, no matter how deep the corruption went. The basement storage room of Metropolitan International Airport was dark and quiet when Sarah Chen opened the heavy metal door. Only a few security cameras monitored this area, and they had all been carefully adjusted to have convenient blind spots. You're late, said a deep voice from the shadows. James Wong, the head of airport maintenance, stepped into the dim light. He had been Sarah's most trusted partner in the smuggling operation for the past 5 years. Had to shake off the new security officer, Sarah replied, closing the door behind her. Some of them are getting too curious. James nodded towards a stack of ordinary-looking boxes in the corner. Tonight's shipment is ready. Zhang's people will be here in 2 hours to collect their part. Sarah walked over to inspect the boxes. On the surface, they looked like regular airport supplies, cleaning materials, spare uniforms, and office equipment. But hidden inside were millions of dollars worth of stolen jewelry, rare artifacts, and other valuable items. What about our friend in customs? Sarah asked, checking the special blue dot markings on each box. David's got everything arranged, James replied. He'll make sure the paperwork disappears, just like always. David Chen, no relation to Sarah, was their inside man in the customs department. He had been helping them bypass security checks for 3 years, making sure certain shipments were never properly inspected. Upstairs in the main terminal, Marcus Rodriguez was working his usual night shift in Terminal 4. But tonight was different. He was wearing a tiny microphone provided by the FBI. Agent Foster had asked him to keep his routine exactly the same, to avoid suspicion. Terminal 4 is clear, Marcus said quietly into the hidden mic, pretending to speak into his radio. He watched as Tom, another security officer, walked past. Tom was one of Sarah's people, though he didn't know Marcus knew this. In her surveillance van parked outside the airport, Agent Foster listened carefully to every word. Her team had spent weeks mapping out Sarah Chen's network. They had identified at least 12 airport employees involved in the operation, but they suspected there were more. Subject is moving towards the basement. A voice crackled through her headphones. One of her undercover agents had spotted Sarah entering the restricted area. Diana checked her watch. According to their intelligence, a major shipment was supposed to move through the airport tonight. But they still didn't know exactly how Sarah's team was getting the illegal goods past security. Back in the basement, Sarah and James were reviewing their plans. The cargo flight to Hong Kong leaves at 3 a.m., James said, pointing to a schedule. Our people at the loading dock will make sure these boxes get on board. What about the passenger terminal distraction? Sarah asked. James smiled. Already arranged. There's going to be a suspicious package alert in Terminal 2 at 2:30 a.m. That should keep security busy while we move the goods. What they didn't know was that Jenny, the new TSA officer, was hidden behind some large crates nearby, recording everything on her phone. Agent Foster had positioned her there hours earlier, knowing this storage room was important to the operation. Jenny's heart was beating so fast she was afraid they would hear it. She watched as Sarah pulled out a laptop and showed James something on the screen. Next month's shipments will be even bigger, Sarah said. I've made arrangements with 3 more airports. This is going international. James whistled softly. You've been busy. How many people are involved now? 27 at this airport alone, Sarah replied proudly. Plus our connections at Kennedy, O'Hare, and Miami International. By next year, we'll have a pipeline through every major airport on the East Coast. In the surveillance van, Agent Foster's eyes widened as she listened to Jenny's recording. This was bigger than they had imagined. Not just a local smuggling operation, but an entire network spanning multiple airports. Keep recording, she whispered into her mic to Jenny. We need every detail. The pieces were finally coming together, but Diana knew they had to be careful. One wrong move, and Sarah Chen's entire network would disappear into the shadows of the airport's endless corridors. Sarah Chen's perfect world almost fell apart on a quiet Wednesday night. The airport had just installed new X-ray machines in Terminal 3, and nobody had warned her about them. Miss Chen called out Kevin, one of the new security officers. Could you come look at something strange on the scanner? Sarah's heart skipped a beat, but her face remained calm as she walked over to the monitoring station. On the screen was a clear image of what should have looked like electronic equipment. Instead, the new machine showed strange shapes hidden inside. Interesting, she said, keeping her voice steady. What do you think it is? Kevin pointed to the dark outlines on the screen. These don't look like normal computer parts. Should we open the boxes for inspection? Sarah's mind raced. Inside those boxes were ancient artifacts worth millions, carefully hidden inside fake computer equipment. Opening them would expose everything. Actually, she said smoothly, I just got an email about this shipment. It's specialized medical equipment for the children's hospital. The shapes look unusual because of the radiation shielding. But Kevin frowned. Shouldn't medical equipment have special labels? I don't see any hazard warnings. Just then, Sarah's phone buzzed. It was a text from James. FBI agent in Terminal 2. Female, business suit. Asking questions. Sarah felt sweat on her forehead but forced herself to smile. You know what, Kevin? You're absolutely right about the labels. This is very observant of you. Let me check the paperwork in my office. She walked away quickly, pulling out her phone to text James. Delay the Hong Kong shipment. New scanners. Too risky. In the FBI surveillance van, Agent Foster watched the exchange through security cameras. She's nervous, she said to Thompson. First time I've seen her rattled. Should we move in? Thompson asked, reaching for his radio. Not yet, Diana replied. We need to catch her with the actual goods. But make sure our people watch those boxes. I want to know where they go. Back inside, Sarah rushed to her office and closed the door. She needed to think fast. The new scanners could ruin everything. She picked up her secure phone, the one that couldn't be traced, and called her contact in Hong Kong. We have a problem, she said quietly. The airport installed new scanning equipment. We need to change our routes. Impossible, the man on the other end snapped. The buyers are waiting. Do you know how much money is at stake? I know, Sarah hissed. But if we get caught, nobody gets anything. Give me 48 hours to figure out a new plan. After hanging up, Sarah sat at her desk, her hands shaking slightly. In 15 years, she had never come this close to being caught. She opened her computer and began checking staff schedules, looking for a way to move the shipment through a different terminal. Meanwhile, Kevin was still studying the strange images on his screen when Jenny walked by. Find something? She asked casually, while pressing the recording button on her hidden microphone. Yeah, but Miss Chen says it's just medical equipment. Kevin replied, scratching his head. Still looks weird to me. Jenny made a mental note to report this to Agent Foster. The new scanners were obviously causing problems for Sarah's operation. Later that night, Sarah called an emergency meeting in the basement storage room. James and their other key people gathered quietly. The new scanners are a problem, she told them. We need to find new routes through the airport, and we need to deal with that FBI agent without drawing attention. What about Kevin? James asked. He saw the images. Sarah thought for a moment. Transfer him to passenger screening in Terminal 1. Make sure he's busy with regular travelers. He's too new to suspect anything bigger. As the group discussed their plans, none of them noticed the tiny camera Agent Foster's team had hidden in an air vent, recording everything. In her van, Diana smiled as she watched the footage. Sarah Chen might have escaped discovery today, but her careful world was starting to crack. One close call was all it took to make people nervous, and nervous people made mistakes. Keep watching, she told her team. She'll slip up again, and next time, we'll be ready. Agent Diana Foster gathered her team in a secret command center they had set up in an abandoned airport warehouse. Maps of Metropolitan International Airport covered the walls, with red dots marking all known locations of Sarah Chen's smuggling operation. Tonight, we start the final phase, Diana told the 20 FBI agents assembled before her. We've identified most of their network, and now it's time to gather the evidence we need to take them down. On a large screen, she displayed photos of their undercover agents. Marcus Rodriguez was still working in Terminal 4, Jenny was positioned near the cargo area, and 5 other agents were disguised as regular airport employees. Remember, Diana continued, Sarah Chen has avoided detection for 15 years. She's smart and careful. One wrong move will alert her, and everything we've worked for will be lost. Meanwhile, in her office, Sarah was reviewing the night's shipment plans. After the close call with the new X-ray machines, she had changed their route through the airport. Now they would move the goods through the old maintenance tunnels instead. The Russian buyers will be here at midnight, James told her, standing by her desk. They're paying double for the jade artifacts. Sarah nodded, but something felt wrong. Ever since the incident with the scanner, she had noticed small changes around the airport. New faces in the cleaning crew, a repair team working on cameras in unusual places, and more security patrols than normal. Back in the FBI command center, Diana was explaining the next step of their plan. We prepared special decoy shipments, she said, pointing to several boxes. Each one contains tracking devices and hidden cameras. When Sarah's people move these boxes, we'll have video evidence of exactly how their operation works. The FBI team had spent weeks preparing the fake shipments. They looked exactly like the kinds of boxes Sarah's network usually handled, complete with the secret blue dot markings they had discovered. Agent Thompson, Diana called out, is the monitoring system ready? Thompson nodded, showing her a laptop screen filled with blinking dots. We can track every box in real time. Plus, we've hidden microphones in all the key meeting spots they use. As night fell over the airport, both sides prepared for what was coming. Sarah's network began their usual routine, but with extra precautions. FBI agents in disguise moved carefully through the terminals, watching and waiting. In Terminal 3, Jenny pretended to clean the floors while actually placing tiny cameras in strategic locations. She saw James Wong walking past, talking quietly on his phone, and activated her hidden microphone. "The buyers are nervous," James was saying. "They want to check the goods before paying." Diana listened to the conversation from her command center. "Perfect," she whispered. "If they open those boxes, we'll have them on camera with the evidence." Suddenly, Marcus's voice came through their radio system. "Sarah Chen is heading to the basement storage room. She looks worried." Diana leaned forward, watching multiple security feeds on her screens. Sarah was moving quickly through the airport, checking over her shoulder more than usual. "She suspects something," Thompson said, concerned. "No," Diana replied, studying Sarah's behavior. "She's nervous about something else. The buyers must be pressuring her." In the basement, Sarah met with her core team. "Listen carefully," she told them. "Tonight's shipment is worth more than anything we've moved before. We can't afford any mistakes." What Sarah didn't know was that among her trusted team members was another FBI agent, carefully recording every word. Inside the command center, Diana stood up. "All teams, get ready," she said into her radio. "Remember, we need clear evidence. Photos, videos, recordings, everything must be perfect for court." As midnight approached, tension filled the airport. FBI agents watched from hidden positions as Sarah's network began moving their shipments. The decoy boxes with tracking devices were in place. Cameras and microphones were recording everything. Diana checked her watch. In just a few hours, they would have all the evidence they needed to bring down one of the biggest smuggling operations ever discovered at a U.S. airport. "Now we wait," she told her team. "Let them think everything is normal. Let them walk right into our trap." Friday night at Metropolitan International Airport was busier than usual. Sarah Chen stood in the cargo terminal, watching as her team prepared for their biggest shipment yet. $5 million worth of stolen artifacts and jewelry were hidden inside computer equipment boxes, waiting to be loaded onto a midnight flight to Hong Kong. "Everything's ready," James whispered, standing next to her. "The Russian buyers are waiting in the private lounge, and our people are in position." Sarah nodded, feeling unusually nervous. Something felt different tonight, but she couldn't figure out what. The airport seemed normal, passengers rushing to flights, security doing their usual checks, cargo being moved around. In the FBI command center, Agent Diana Foster watched Sarah through hidden cameras. "All teams in position," she said into her radio. "Remember, we wait until they actually handle the goods. We need solid evidence." Diana had positioned her agents carefully throughout the airport. Marcus was monitoring Terminal 4, Jenny was hidden near the cargo area, and other undercover agents were scattered around, all waiting for her signal. At exactly 11:30 p.m., Sarah's operation began moving. Workers she had bribed started shifting the special boxes toward the loading area. The Russian buyers, pretending to be business travelers, walked slowly toward the meeting point. "Target is moving," Thompson's voice crackled through Diana's radio. "She's heading to the basement storage room." Sarah walked confidently through the airport's corridors, using her supervisor's keycard to access restricted areas. In 15 years, she had never been caught. Tonight would be her biggest success yet. But as she entered the storage room, something caught her eye. A tiny red light blinked in the corner, something that had never been there before. "James," she said quickly into her phone, "I think we have a prob." Before she could finish, the light suddenly blazed on. FBI agents emerged from behind crates and boxes, their weapons drawn. "Sarah Chen," Diana Foster's voice rang out as she stepped forward. "You're under arrest." For a moment, Sarah stood frozen. Then she turned to run, but found more agents blocking the door. James tried to reach for his phone, but an agent quickly stopped him. Throughout the airport, the FBI teams moved simultaneously. In Terminal 2, they arrested the Russian buyers. In the cargo area, they caught Sarah's workers with the illegal shipments. At the security desk, they took down the corrupt officers who had helped her. Security cameras caught everything. Passengers watched in amazement as FBI agents led away airport employees in handcuffs. The night shift supervisor, Sarah Chen, who everyone had trusted for 15 years, was being escorted out in handcuffs. "Check the boxes," Diana ordered her team. They opened the fake computer equipment shipment, revealing millions of dollars worth of stolen goods. Each item was carefully documented as evidence. Marcus and Jenny, no longer pretending to be regular employees, helped the FBI team secure the scene. Their months of undercover work had finally paid off. "How did you catch me?" Sarah asked Diana as she was led away. She still couldn't believe her perfect operation had fallen apart. Diana smiled. "You got sloppy after the new X-ray machine scared you, started making small mistakes. Plus, some of your most trusted people were actually working for us." Sarah's face showed shock as she realized how completely she had been fooled. The network she had spent years building had been infiltrated at every level. In the airport's main terminal, passengers pulled out their phones, recording as the FBI let out more and more arrested airport employees. Nobody could believe that such a huge criminal operation had been happening right under their noses. "Total count?" Diana asked Thompson as they watched the arrests continue. 27 airport employees so far," he replied, "plus the Russian buyers and their contacts. We also found evidence linking this to smuggling operations at 3 other major airports." Diana nodded with satisfaction. Months of careful planning had paid off. Sarah Chen's empire had fallen, and with it, one of the largest airport smuggling operations in U.S. history had been exposed. As morning approached, the airport slowly returned to normal operations. But things would never be quite the same. The night's events would change airport security procedures across the country, and the story of Sarah Chen's dramatic downfall would be told for years to come. 1 month after the dramatic arrests at Metropolitan International Airport, the full impact of Sarah Chen's smuggling operation was finally becoming clear. Agent Diana Foster stood at a podium in FBI headquarters, addressing a room full of reporters. "The investigation has revealed a criminal enterprise worth over $50 million, she announced, pointing to photos and evidence displayed behind her. Sarah Chen and her network smuggled valuable items through 4 major U.S. airports over 3 years. In a federal detention center across town, Sarah sat in an orange jumpsuit, speaking with her lawyer. The evidence against her was overwhelming. Security camera footage, recorded conversations, financial records, and testimony from her former associates had destroyed any chance of denying her guilt. "They're offering a deal," her lawyer explained. "If you help identify smuggling networks at other airports, they might reduce your sentence." Sarah stared at the wall, remembering how differently things had looked just a month ago. Her perfect plan, her trusted team, her reputation, everything was gone. Back at Metropolitan Airport, big changes were happening. Marcus Rodriguez, no longer a junior officer, had been promoted to help implement new security procedures. He walked through Terminal 3, where workers were installing even more advanced scanning equipment. "Double-check everything," he told his team. "No exceptions to the protocols, no matter who gives the order." Jenny, who had played a crucial role in the investigation, was now training new security officers. She made sure they understood how Sarah's network had operated, so they could spot similar schemes in the future. "Remember," she told her trainees, "Sarah Chen fooled everyone for 15 years because people trusted her too much. In security, trust must always come with verification." The FBI investigation had expanded to other airports. Diana's team discovered similar operations in Miami, Chicago, and New York. Each discovery led to more arrests and stricter security measures nationwide. The Chen case changed everything, Diana explained to airport security directors from around the country. "It showed us that corruption can hide behind the most trusted faces. We had to rethink every security procedure." International authorities were also involved now. The stolen artifacts found in Sarah's last shipment were being returned to museums and private collectors around the world. Each item told a story of how extensive her smuggling network had been. James Wong and the other arrested airport employees faced their own trials. Many chose to cooperate with authorities, revealing more details about how the operation had worked. Their testimonies helped close similar smuggling cases at other airports. The Russian buyers caught in the sting operation led investigators to larger criminal organizations. Diana's team discovered connections to art theft rings and international jewelry smugglers. Each new revelation showed how Sarah's airport operation had been just one piece of a much larger criminal puzzle. In the airport's main terminal, a new display case caught passengers' attention. It contained photos and information about the smuggling operation, serving as both a warning and a reminder. The case included a picture of Sarah Chen's supervisor badge, once a symbol of trust, now evidence of betrayal. People asked me how we finally caught her, Diana said in a television interview 6 months later. The truth is, it wasn't one big mistake that brought Sarah Chen down. It was the small cracks in her perfect plan, a curious junior officer, a new X-ray machine, and dedicated investigators who kept digging until they found the truth. The case became a standard training example at the FBI Academy. New agents studied how Sarah had built her network, how she had hidden it for so long, and how the investigation had finally exposed everything. Metropolitan Airport itself became a model for new security procedures. Other airports sent their staff to learn from what had happened there. The lessons from Sarah Chen's case helped protect airports across the country from similar schemes. 1 year after the arrests, Diana Foster stood at her office window, looking at a framed newspaper article about the case. The headline read, "Airport Smuggling Ring Exposed, a Warning for Aviation Security." "Every case teaches us something," she told Thompson, who still worked with her. "This one taught us that security isn't just about checking bags and scanning passengers. It's about watching the watchers themselves."